3, 2, 1, 0. All engine.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Hey guys, just dropping a quick video here. A testimony for Married into Crazy coaching. Great coaching. I was able to speak with Ernie, and he was able to help me fill in some gaps. I felt like I was on a good path already, but I wanted to elevate my game even more. I know I needed a coach to help me do that, and I'm glad that I came here. If you're looking for some great coaching, personal, business, or even with your relationships, look no further. Reach out to these guys. They do great work, and thank you.
See, I wanted to catch that.
That's funny.
We've had other couples in the past say, you should have caught all that. That could have been in the bloopers.
Yeah.
You could have. That was your chance, but now we get serious.
Don't worry, he's got plenty more.
I love that.
Non-stop.
Well, okay, so look. So earlier in the week, Joey reached out saying, hey, is there going to be like a pre-call, something like that? And I know that in a lot of interview formats, people like to do the show before the show to kind of make sure you got everything ironed out. Our podcast is pretty raw. One of the things that we talk about in Married into Crazy is that it's an opportunity for other couples to get their ear hustle on, right? That to be able to get that listen in as if they were a fly on the wall, listening to a couple in their living room.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, we don't like to do a whole lot of prep. As a matter of fact, you were the only couple that I ever, the little text that I sent you, Joey, like, okay, this is kind of the way it's going to go. You're the only person I've ever done that for.
Wow.
I'll take the blame for that. So unlike Superstar over here, I'm not always on podcasts getting interviewed. And what had happened was somehow there was a conversation about finances. And then something happened, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, do you mind being on this podcast with me? So I was like, fine. I was like, is it about finance? So I had no clue like what we were really doing. So I was like, just give me a general, hey, are we talking about marriage? Are we talking about finance? What are we talking about? That was on me. So that wasn't him.
And can she cuss? She wants to know if she can cuss. All you had to do was ask him. I mean, what can they say is no.
Okay, so
I'm kidding.
the first point, it's going to be about marriage, finance, all the above. This is actually an IRS audit.
Hey.
Nice.
And as far as the cussing, you know, we ask that you keep it to a minimum. Because we always check that box for you for Apple Podcast that says that it's family friendly.
Family friendly. Okay, you hear that?
We interviewed a professional basketball player that plays overseas, and his wife. That's part of our family, and he had to keep catching himself because he was going to drop F-bombs left and right.
Right.
No, that's good. She's wanted her brother to come on many times. I was like, okay,
yeah.
we can't bring him on.
We have to get the world ready for my brother.
Really?
Yeah, no. We have to get ready, so.
So it doesn't matter everything, Roland. I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
So what I want to do is, okay, so the world is in dire need of couples that are open and sharing and willing to discuss their relationships from the standpoint of, you know, everybody wants to know, you know, well, how do I have a lasting relationship? How do I, you know, make sure I'm being transparent with my spouse or my significant other? So we've taken it upon ourselves with Married into Crazy to reach out with couples that, you know, we think have a unique story, that have something to lend to everyone else. Because as much as the world talks about unicorns, you hear that tossed around a lot. Oh, this person's a unicorn, or that person's a unicorn. I'm not a big fan of it because I think that even in our uniqueness, somebody's experiencing what you're going through, and they need to know that they're not alone. And so, Married into Crazy, the title of our podcast is exactly what we're going to discuss, about being married into crazy. And I'll let you two decide.
And I am. So
There
we're
you
on
go.
the podcast.
See, you just killed a half hour of the podcast. We always try to figure who that is. That's fantastic. And, you know, we believe in developing an iron tribe. the scripture says, as iron sharpens iron in Proverbs 27:17, we also believe that as iron sharpens iron, we as couples should sharpen each other. So I as you can tell, I'm the high D, the high I in the family. So I have a tendency to be the mouthpiece more times than not.
All the time. So.
So tell us a little bit about yourselves. So first and foremost, I should probably say to our audience that we're talking with Joey and Tina Kibble.
Yes.
And I don't like to do big, grand introductions about backgrounds, this, that, and the other. We love to let the couples kind of tell us who you are and who you are to each other. So, floor is yours.
Good to go. Go ahead.
No, you go
No,
ahead.
please. Oh, please.
No,
Ladies
this will be
first.
interesting. I'd like
No,
to hear how you
ladies
start.
first. No, I will not. And get in trouble for it later, please.
All right. Well, a little bit about myself. I am born and raised in the DC metropolitan area. Moved here about 6 years ago? Yeah, right. A little.
And where's here?
Nashville. I'm sorry. We're in Nashville, Tennessee, to be with my lovely husband here in the great state of Tennessee. So yeah, we've been married for a little over 6 years. We were dating for about 3 years prior to that. We have 2 beautiful daughters, 15 and 2, so quite the age gap there. Another thing that does make us unique, and we say this for kind of just insight into our actual marriage and our family life. Carly, the oldest, is Joey's daughter from his previous marriage. So we are a blended family as well too. But yeah, just living the life, living the dream here in Nashville.
She hates
I'll
Nashville.
let you go. Yes, Nashville is growing on me. But yeah, you can fill in the rest.
Like a disease.
I'm going to say there's 2 ways to take that. It can grow on you like something that you really like, or
Growing something you want to hit and stomp.
right, and surgically remove.
But yeah, she's it had to have been a beast for her to move to this situation. So I had been married for 12 years before this. Traumatic exit, relationship, divorce, walking my daughter through that process, going through the dating experience and actually meeting her. It's an epic story. So you'll have to let me know how much or whatever you would like to know about it, but there are volumes. So I'm going to leave that up to you. But I was born in Buffalo, New York. We quickly moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I've lived around Tennessee and Alabama for most of my life. My dad is a pastor. My mother was a nurse. They ended up divorcing when I was just out of high school. Then I got into Take 6. I've been traveling internationally since '91. And
now he's home.
And now I'm home. That's another story.
All
That's a
the
whole
time.
nother.
I'm writing that down, okay?
Time.
That's another episode. That's another volume right there. But yeah, I've been traveling most of my life, and now as of March, I'm home, and that presents some interesting perspective. But yes, I will say that Tina had to go through quite a bit to uproot her community, because she was born and raised around, not Tacoma Park, but Laurel, Maryland. So her entire family, her community is based there, and she had to uproot her community to come and be with me. So that was some joys and some sorrows. So what would you like to know?
Okay, well, my first question was, how did you meet? So since you gave us a little bit of I'm salivating right now. I want to know what happened.
Okay. Yeah.
His side, his story, her story, then the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so again, he mentioned he's in take 6. So the very first time we met was probably long time ago, probably about 20 years ago. We had a mutual friend. We met at a concert. After a concert, he was still married. It was just, hey, nice to meet you. We all sat down, had a meal, great, moved on. And then as it would have it, there were plenty of opportunities where we should have met again. And for whatever reason, our paths never crossed again until fast forward to 2011. He came to speak at my church. He was doing a men's conference. I had no clue he was divorced. I had a boyfriend at the time. There was no thought of any of these things. This same mutual friend now had bells ringing and said, wait a minute, Tina's relationship, this ain't gonna last. So this guy's out and Joey's divorced. And so he basically had us meet. I couldn't stay. It was pretty much like a 20-minute meeting, exchange numbers, just being nice. And then that slowly just kept growing and growing and growing. And then we got in a relationship, dated, got married, had a kid, and here we are.
You can unpack any part of that and we'll give you.
Yes, that is clearly the high level. High level.
Well, the question I have is for, actually for both of you, but in different perspectives, different vantage points. Mm-hmm. First let me go Joey first. So having going through to coin the phrase traumatic departure from your previous marriage relationship, it takes a lot for a person to get married, to the first time or at all. And I'm curious, how did you go from that traumatic experience being married for, I think you said 12 years, and then opening yourself up again to having, another relationship, a commitment?
I felt like I was an epic failure. You'd have to go back to my parents' relationship. If you can think back as long as you remember of your parents' relationship, and then one day realizing it was nothing of what you thought it was, that plays a game on your mind. That may not affect you at the time, but later on, when you begin to get into a similar type of relationship, then it begins to work its way out. And somebody had asked me before, and I felt like, it was a fall day. I was taking Carly as a little toddler to the zoo. I asked my wife to come. She did not want to come. It seemed like there was something amiss, and it was something like, it was this sinister feeling like something is about to go down. And I had this crazy thought while at the zoo. So I'm pushing my daughter through the zoo, and suddenly this reality, I can't say it was a vision because I was walking clearly, but I saw myself as a single father, pushing my daughter, not just through the zoo, but like through life. It was like, I'm about to be a single father. And it freaked me out. I had no idea where it came from, but the scarier thought was a thought that came after, which was, I'm already familiar with this. And so I'm sitting there like, what the heck is going on with me? I'm just passing the elephants and suddenly I've lost my mind. When I thought about it, my dad had raised me as a single kid. I had suffered and gone through their divorce. I emotionally didn't realize that I had gone through their divorce like I was a partner in their situation. There are a whole bunch of reasons for that. But now, as I have this premonition seeming that I'm about to go through this again, that was horrific enough. But to know that I'm already familiar because it's like I've already been through this with my parents was horrifying. And it's like after that particular day, it's just like the series of events just began to disintegrate. Over that period of time, I realized she doesn't want this marriage. She ended up telling me about it. There are a whole bunch of things that should never have happened in that marriage that I didn't know how to process. And so I had to go through that started a period of therapy for me, where I had to walk through my own reality. But my healing started in the middle of that walk. That got me ready for her. But before that, when my marriage started failing, I didn't realize that I was trying to outrun my parents' relationship. I wasn't going to fail like them. I wasn't going to crash like them. I'm going to stay married. So really, all throughout high school, all throughout my dating years, I didn't realize that I was trying to date people and not quit like my parents, because inside me, I felt like something after 20 years, 30 years is going to quit, and I have to outrun this. So I stayed in relationships way longer than I was supposed to. I mean, they voted me most likely to get married because that's how I acted when I was there. It just should have been a dating situation, but I was too busy trying to outrun it. So when my marriage started failing and crashed, it wasn't just a failure of a relationship. It was an epic life failure. So I didn't want to sing. I didn't want to speak anywhere. I thought my life was over. I mean, I thought I had failed at everything important, and I couldn't see past that. It wasn't until I started the process of therapy that helped me to realize this is not the end of my life. But before that, I was a mess. Because I have a brother and sister, older brother and sister, their marriages failed. So I'm surrounded by this legacy of divorce that I promised myself I was going to break, and I didn't break it. I had succumbed to it. And I mean, that was my epic failure right there. Wow. And it took a period of a couple of years to just walk me through, Joey, you're not a failure. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And there's a couple of things that stood out to me as you were sharing that. And by the way, thank you for being so transparent and sharing.
Oh, there's more where that came from. If that's what you like. Well, I got a set of guilty guys to send you to.
There are couples out there that, again, that think they're the unicorn, that they're the only ones going through what they're going through. And I think that people need to hear that that no one's immune to the hardships of heartache.
Yeah.
And one thing you talked about was intuition. When you're at the zoo with your daughter, and I think that intuition is something that I think that a lot of couples a lot of people need to pay a little bit more adherence to, or at least get in touch with. They always talk about a woman's intuition, but I think we all had it because more women are empathic or in touch with that empathic side of themselves. But I think that we as men should be a little bit more intuitive as well, at least listen to that. Yeah. And there's a book out called The Buddha and the Badass by, that's not cussing, but
you'll read it for the badass part. No, I'm playing. Go ahead.
And no, it's written by the CEO of mindvalley.com. And it's a big time personal growth. And it talks a lot about intuition in there as well. But you mentioned something, there's a phrase you used that I just think is really telling. Trying to outrun my parents' relationship. And I think that so many of us, when we get in these discussions about, okay, if we get married, what's your ideal marriage? You have these conversations. I know that for Snooks and I, when we talked, it was about, realistically, you just put a phrase on something that we talked about 24 years ago. trying to outrun our parents' relationships. My father is on his 4th marriage, and he's sticking. This one's gonna stick.
I would say that ain't going nowhere now, though.
Okay.
She caught him because he can't run no more.
Wow. That's one way.
And no, they're good together. And then mom.
My mom, her 2nd marriage, but she's a widow now, so she was married twice. My dad was married 3 times.
Oh yeah, my mother was married 3 times as well. So when we had our discussion, it was about we're not going to be our parents.
Yeah.
Right.
But you so eloquently said, we had a discussion about outrunning our parents' relationships.
Just not putting it that way. We didn't know the term. We just said we ain't gonna get divorced, even though I tried to divorce him, but
Wow. Wow.
She did. She went back. She was an Indian giver.
Wow.
So now with everything you shared, and the reason why we love talking to couples, regardless of one person's, professional career or what have you, it's just because it takes 2. It's always 2. People have a tendency to look at the person in the spotlight and they forget that regardless of what it is you do, right? But they don't know that Joey can't be Joey
without Tina.
Unless Tina is Tina.
Right. Yeah.
Did you hear? Can you say that again?
I already know. Thank you.
I already know.
Look, what people don't realize is that in a relationship, that you feel like you're living the relationship, but more times than not, the woman is the underwriter on the relationship, writing those rules and regulations that we can't quite see. It's in that fine print. So you do your thing, Tina. No, except for Snow.
The ones you don't follow, because I'm just trying to figure that part out. But okay.
So obviously you knew each other back when he was first married and you were in a relationship, and you met, and it was purely platonic, just happenstance. It came together again. But knowing what you know, and knowing the degree to which he went through, and all the level of trauma, what have you, whatever you want to call it, how did you open yourself up to entering a relationship to become part of a blended family?
Well, that's a good question. So for me, my parents have been married for over 40 years at this point. They definitely had, their share of issues, their dysfunctions, their trauma, which definitely shaped me as well. So I saw a slightly different side. They've stuck together. But I wanted to not just stick together. I mean, commend them for that. I do. But I wanted to be happy. I wanted to be glowing. I wanted to, take it to that next step.
Right.
So the thing for me when it came to him, I've told Carly, my daughter, my bonus daughter, nobody ever dreams of, I'm going to have a stepdaughter. I'm going to be in a blended family. No one ever comes to the table with that dream. But for me, what made the difference was I could see his commitment and how he pushed our relationship to move past that trauma, to move past whatever we've been through, and engaging in therapy, engaging in those conversations, having the difficult conversations with my parents, with his family. And although I always knew it's not going to be a walk in the park, when you see that level of commitment to, we're going to do what we need to do for our health, for our marriage, for our family, it kind of outweighs the rest of it. Because I could be with someone who has a quote unquote clean slate, but if you don't have that commitment, it makes a difference. And what's also funny is, yes, the second marriage is always interesting, but to a certain extent, he's been married before. There was less training, as you want to call it, less, teaching them how to be in a marriage or how to be around children. That was already there. So one plus side of it. But really, it was the commitment to where he was, the growth, and all the other stuff. So that's kind of what sealed the deal for me.
It's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Joey, I know that you're an extreme execution coach.
Yes.
And we met, via Dr. Eric Thomas and that process. But one of the things we always talk about in that platform with, you and some of the other coaches is about, an immature personality versus a mature personality. And it sounds to me like Tina's reaping the benefits of getting the mature.
Yes, I got the flip side.
Wow.
And I mean, he did too. It's a two-way street.
Whatever. Whatever.
You're right. Marriage is a two-way street.
It is.
So what I find super interesting is that you alluded to it earlier. We're living in an unprecedented time right now. We're not even going to talk about the political climate, but we'll talk about, the pandemic or the beginning of the pandemic, dealing with what we're dealing with in this nation, the likes of which the world has never seen. And you had mentioned that now Joey's home. He's not on tour. And so now you're having to deal with him in a way that probably is never before seen. It's like, at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Like,
okay, so he saw my question right here, and then he's just going to ask it.
And take credit for it. I mean, is that the crazy part?
I'm like, seriously? And he just transitioned so quickly. And so I'm like, can I ask a question?
Your question.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask straight out. So how's the transition with you guys, with him now being at home all the time? How is that going? I know it's one thing to have a relationship or be in a marriage where your partner is gone most of the time, but now they're home most of the time. So they get on your nerves most of the time. So,
be honest.
And I will be. That's one thing you can count
this
on.
is the part where you get to cuss if you want to.
So it's a very interesting dichotomy, right? When he's gone, I'm sitting up here like, when are you coming home? Are you seriously going to be gone for 6 weeks? And that it's always been a struggle, but we had a long distance relationship before we got married. Since we've been married, he's been on the road almost half a year, give or take, depending on the year. So what I didn't realize was, although it is a very uncertain schedule, I'm kind of used to the uncertainty of it. I think it also, obviously the pandemic just made it so not only are we home, but when he was home, that was kind of my time where I would get to be able to stay at work a little longer, like really focus on what I'm doing, stay at the job. He would have the kids, I wouldn't be doing as much back and forth, picking up the kids and things of that nature. So, but then to now be home, all four of us under the same roof, it's challenging. It's challenging because you don't realize, number one, how much for us, how small our house is. Like the walls are closing in on us. But number two, it's then having to really kind of work with each other's schedule 24/7. Make time for each other, but then I still need my space alone. And then you add a toddler in the mix, and that's just, but the good thing about it has been, it's given him an opportunity specifically to work on things that he would never have the opportunity before. You mentioned extreme execution, all the other things. When he's on the road, it's just not feasible. So it's been a blessing to see him really pour into it. But then at the same time, now it's, okay, I'm working, you're working, you got a call at 10, I have a call at 10. Who's going to keep the baby? Because, and so it's kind of showing, areas in which we need to work on either communication or just even being okay with, I'm going to go take a shower. I don't want to see the four of you or the three of you for an hour. I love you. Just give me some space, So it's working through that, finding ways to not be irritated, getting creative with even just how to manage, the family, the girls, our relationship. But I will say, yeah, it's a beautiful thing to finally be able to see him kind of step into some of his other purpose and things like that. So that's my take on it.
So I'll run with it from here. I'm not sure that we ever really had that post honeymoon type of settling in. I probably had a month or two or whatever that, or even 3, that we didn't have as much work. But once I got back, had to get back on the road, it was just like constantly going again. Which left her in a situation where she has to learn this entire new environment. She's got to, as a blended family, she's got to now learn how to deal with Carly, and deal with her mother. And that was a beast of a situation. So it's like, she hit the ground running. And if you add in the fact that she's not in her environment anymore, so nothing is familiar. Nothing, she doesn't have friends here. She has to learn to have friends. Where are we going to go to church? The fact that, my ex, who can be pretty manipulative, is now deciding to go to the same church. And, she really just lived across the highway from me. All of that, the years of, you're the blotch on my life and all that kind of stuff. When she finally had the chance to move, she moved across the street. And it's just like, so she had to deal with some beast of a challenge. But I say that because we really didn't have a chance to, that stage where you get to where you're done with the honeymoon and you're kind of settling in and, settling into the marriage or whatever. I thought that had kind of happened, but it almost seemed like it happened in a new way once all my concerts and everything were canceled at the beginning of COVID in March. And it triggered some things emotionally with me. So at first, because I've spent much of my years just complaining about not being able to be home. It's a balance that has to be maintained. I gotta go to work, but then, I'm missing out on raising kids. I do not want my kids to grow up without me because I'm busy working to keep food on the table, at least my part of it. But once I stopped, and now we're in front of it. So the first few weeks, I'm just like, oh man, okay, I don't know what's coming, but I'm home. At least we're home, whatever. But it's almost kind of like that there was a honeymoon phase that was ending, and we're kind of looking at each other, and I'm starting to see that she's stressed, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'm home now. I mean, we should start working through some stuff. But now she's like, if you're talking about the execution stuff, she's now getting into a specific adaptive phase where she's like, it's a constant low-grade stress that's happening that I thought my presence was going to solve because I'm home now. And as I continued.
I love the fact that she's laughing. Like she just gets my
life. I don't know.
She gets my whole life right now.
I see that. And so.
I got you, sis.
Yes.
The interesting thing was that after a few months, I began to, thoughts were coming into my head. So let me take you back. There were plenty of signs in the last relationship that things were going wrong. I didn't know how to read them because in that way, I was not prepared. When I finally awoke to what was going on, it was like a train hit me. That was the whole trauma of it. But what I felt her emotionally departing. And I didn't know how to explain. And it happened a long way back in the marriage. I didn't want to call it what it was, but she was emotionally departing. So now I'm sensing her level of stress and her kind of pulling back like she needs her space. And I'm thinking, she's getting ready to break out. Now, Joey, don't think that. This is a whole different relationship. This is not the same thing. The fear of she's getting ready, because she's not going to just leave. The emotional departure happens first. And what's this going on? I mean, you're home now, but now that doesn't really solve the problems that you're feeling. Is she emotionally leaving? And I had to sit there and battle through, Joey, this is not the same situation. There was something different. We spent 3 years really in counseling. That's a funny story just by itself. But I say that because we laid a foundation of counsel, of principles. But all that notwithstanding, I still had to deal with this emotion of, man, is she starting to pull away from me? is now the disillusionment of marriage, has that hit her? What's she thinking? I know she's kind of laughing, like whatever, but that's what was going through my mind, and I had to work through that to move forward.
I'll say this. I think for me, I had, depending on the week or the weekend, once we got married, I was either married but kind of single, able to do what I need to do, just chilling out. It could be me and Carly. So then I'm operating like a single mom. Or the three of us could be together. Or Carly could be gone and it would be us. So there was always kind of a change of scenery, a change of pace, but I didn't realize how used to that type of situation I was. So little things like I would, put the kids down and then I'm just going to go watch TV, kind of empty out my mind. But then he's working all day and then 9 o'clock comes and he's like, so what we going to do? Let's spend some time. Let's, and I'm like, I don't want to see anybody right now, and that I think was new to me because I didn't realize, and because I'm so used to pining, wishing that he was here. But then now that space of 24/7, someone's looking for you to do something, you're managing work, you're managing the kids. And then even just, hey, let's hang out, let's do something. And it's like, dude, I just need to mindlessly not have to do anything. And he viewed that, I remember the day he's looking at me like, are you departed? I'm like, no, I just need to watch some TV or take a bath or, like drive somewhere. I just need to decompress. So that's something I learned new about myself, was that need for space. And what did happen is every time he was back in town, like I said, I was, okay, now I'm at work. I can focus on that. If I need to do some shopping, I'm gonna go do that. I can do whatever. And so it was more of the balance. But now he's here and now he's growing the business. And so he's even more busy than he was before. I was used to him being home and him taking on the house and I can breathe. But now it's like he's here and I'm still having to carry that weight of the other things. So.
Wow. That's interesting. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know that feeling of, because sometimes, so when COVID first started, I was working, I had to go to work because I work at a prison. Mm-hmm. And so Lovey was home at work, he was home working, the girls were working, doing schoolwork at home. Everyone was home except for me. Mm-hmm. And so like somebody's in my face all the time. And when I come home, I'm just like, okay, blah, 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 whatever, kind of go through my day. And so I have him now. He's been in the house all day. I'm like, I just want to go in my room. Can I just sit on the bed? And it's so funny too, because sometimes he makes me feel like I'm a child, because I'm like, oh, I just need to decompress. And I'm going to pick up my iPad and I'm going to turn on my Kindle and I'm just going to sit here and read because I know there's something I need to be doing. And as soon as I hear his footsteps, I put it down and I'm like, he's like, what are you doing? Oh, okay. So how'd this go? And then, or the girls would come in and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm about to scream,
Wow.
Leave me alone. And when I say it like that, while I was thinking it, I know that it would just sound so harsh, What are you doing? Oh, I know that.
Oh, now he's out. Now he doesn't want to stay.
No. But you have that feeling of, I just need some time. I just really need some space, to let me decompress. Let me just have 10 minutes. I used to hide in the bathroom. And you're like, what are you doing? I'm using the bathroom. Do you need just, I would just hide in the bathroom and lock the door.
Now I have two questions.
Okay.
Number one, did you call him Lovey?
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to know, because I only know him as Ernie. I don't know him as Lovey. But now I know him as Lovey. Number two, though, are you saying that what you needed was, so in decompression time, will you come out of decompression and let him know, okay, I'm good, I can re-engage now? Yeah. Or does he need to come get you from decompression?
Depends on the day. I'm going to be very honest. It depends on the day that I had. Sometimes I could just sit here for the rest of the evening, you know, I don't need to eat. I don't need to, please just act like you don't see me. I'm the invisible woman, you know.
Wow.
But then other times, really depending on the mood that I was in, I was like, okay, I have my 10 minutes or however long I need it, and now I can go and be part of the family. And, you know, we pick up from where we left off the day before. But
it's funny, you know, Tina, you were talking about how, you know, it might be with Carly, it might be, you know, you had your standard operating procedure set up, right? And it was your algorithm, the way that you operated.
Absolutely.
And Joey shows up, hey, how you doing? What's going on?
The whole thing completely off. And so here's the other thing too. So the whole extreme execution, we're both S's. I'm a little bit more, have more of the D and the other side. So we're not exactly aligned, but if you can imagine then, so the thing that was wearing out, in addition to just normal woman, wife, mom, you know, it was one thing to kind of, you know, go into that adaptive state and try to support him, and then he'd be gone, and then I'm doing my thing.
right.
But then I'm living as an S trying to support all the different people 24/7. And then adding in now another person was like kind of where it was getting just like, okay, I'm used to you being gone. You know, I can support you for 2-3 weeks, and then I get a week break, and then I'm back to them. And it was that, and it had to come to a point where I had to take that pressure off myself. Like, if I need to go, I'm step back and be okay with that. And, you know, of course, we have a 2-year-old, so she negates everything. You know, she doesn't understand mommy needs time or any of that stuff.
Like, this is my house.
Yeah, pretty much. She'd probably tell you that too.
Okay, so you brought up DISC. So what, Tina, you don't have to give me the numbers, but like, I mean, what are you? Would you consider yourself your top 2? I know, but nobody's any just one thing. I'm just curious.
So you know what's very interesting, and I probably need to deep dive into this more, but we do a version of the DISC analysis at work every year. And I always come off, I'm a D. I'm a DC at work every single year. And I don't know if it's just a different test, which I know there's different versions. But when I took the test here with Joey, I think I had more so the home life, you know, that particular cap on, I guess you can call it. So primarily, yes, I do think I'm a C. You'll see more of those D attributes come out and things like that, depending on where I am. Some of it too, coming into an existing family, I had to not learn where I fit in, but there's definitely a supportive role that has to come in there. I'm not starting everything from anew.
Right.
So I think that definitely shaped it, but I don't remember my numbers. He remembers much better.
I could pull up your numbers, because the interesting thing is I'm a coach, but you can't coach your partner. So none of that works.
Preach your own preacher. Come on.
You can't coach your partner. You can't train, like physical training. We've learned we can't work out together. No.
Come on.
Yeah, the coach, I mean, we can do that, but it's I don't know, it's very interesting, because it really is, to a certain extent, I feel like I have 2 completely different sides of me, and everything I've learned has always been on that D side. Get it done, here it is.
Okay, so while you're talking, I'll pull up hers on this side so she can see it, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to steal another one of Snooks' questions.
You better ask permission. Ask for royalties this time.
You go ahead and answer.
No, so you brought up how I call him Lovey. So we have nicknames. He's been Lovey and I've been Snooks since we first started dating.
Okay.
So, you guys have any nicknames for each other?
Not any that we could say. No, I'm playing. No,
I mean, just basic ones, but it's just kind of babe and babe. Like, we both call each other the same thing, which is funny, because now our 2-year-old, babe, she'll call him babe, like, to get his attention if he's not answering to daddy.
That is so cute.
Do you mind? Can I share the screen, or do you just want the numbers?
No, you can just go ahead and share the numbers. That way, because I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Because Lovey doesn't have time to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, so look, this is all extreme execution, sharing numbers and graphs. Can the rest of us
Can you give me your stats, please? Just give me your stats. I understand that.
So here's what I'm getting to. Sometimes in our podcast, we like to we touch upon DISC, and we do a workshop every month. And we take people through their DISC and give them like a high level introduction to it. But it's more about letting people know that, you know what, sometimes opposites attract. And there's opportunities for just because you're different. Like I'm a very high D, high I, she's a high S, high C. And if you were to superimpose it upside down.
One complete person, basically. That's what I say.
That's incredible.
Exactly. And then there's people and that doesn't mean it has to be that way. There's other people that are both high D, high I, but it just depends on what areas of life they want to take the lead in. Somebody might be they might both be high D, high I, but one person might be much more astute when it comes to finances. So you get to be the D when it comes to finances. Other person might want to be the D when it comes to dealing with contractors or other people or what have you. It just kind of depends. I'm always curious about the couple, if you've been exposed to DISC and what those are.
But I also find it too, Tina, how you said while you're at work, you're a D and a C. And it made me just think right now, it's like it probably could be depending on where you are when you take the test, what your mindset is while you take the test. Because sometimes I'm like, it's so funny, I think I'm a low D at home probably, but I'm like, other people will be like, ooh, she's so intimidating. And that's what, D's are kind of, bearish. Sorry, babe. But
Lovey.
Demanding or whatever it is, kind of aggressive. And I'm like, well, why do people act like they're afraid of me? Or, not afraid, but like, oh, she might, whatever. And I was like, that's good food for thought. That just made me think about that. So
yeah, it is. So I will give the disclaimer. The one we take at work, they more so use it to help everybody understand communication styles. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit more tailored to that versus just a general overall comprehension of how you operate. So we literally have little plaques on our desk that say, okay, Tina's a D, come to her with facts. Don't be sitting here chit-chatting, tell me what you need, bullet points, you can get out my face, like that type of stuff. I mean, just to make it funny. But so, I mean, of course, there's two differences in the test there. But yeah, I do agree. I think sometimes just where you are and depending on your career, depending on your family life, it's such different sides of what needs to happen.
Wouldn't that be beautiful? Just real quick, Joey. Would it be beautiful though, if even in relationships, if we could walk around with little signs above our head?
Just a tag with your profile.
Because that way you can sit there and be like, okay, look, I'm a high D, she's a high C. We agree we want the exact same outcome. So if she wants to take the scenic route, I just want the direct route. No. As a matter of fact, I want the shortcut.
That's not even
to get
true.
there.
That's
and
not
so I just want to be able to point to the D, like, okay, get to the end of the story. Tell me.
My God, and I promise you, that's exactly how it is. Lovey is like, oh, we need to do blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, so I like to think about, well, what we need to do, what steps need to, I'm not just going to go and do stuff. And he'll do that. Example, face mask. No, I'm just going to tell this story real quick. Face mask. A face mask. We have face masks made at work, and I gave him one. And so he had his logo, whatever, printed on it. His manager saw it and was like, that's really cool, blah, 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 whatever. Maybe we can get some for the team. That's what he said. Lovey calls me. He's like, hey, who made those face masks? And I told him, he's like, okay, so we need to get like 8 or however many, blah. He's just going on. And because manager said, yada, yada, yada. I was like, okay, so my first question is he going to pay for it? I mean, how is this going to, I'm asking all the pertinent questions. Oh, don't worry about that. Blah. Okay, so we went, I got the lady to make the mask, and he went and had the logos printed on them. And his manager says, oh yeah, well, maybe blah, blah. I mean, he kind of took it back a little bit. So I got mad, and I was like, I told you to ask the question if it's going to be paid for. Oh, well, babe, he said, and I'm like, see, this is why we don't get along on this part of things. It's the same thing, but he just wants to just go and do it, but without asking the important questions. I'm like, see, because if we would have known that he was going to pay for it, or, I would have been like, well, when he paid for it, then we'll go do it,
My perspective is, I got it done. He was happy. I sent him out to the team.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, and now the company came down with an edict saying nobody could wear anything because it might not be the right shade of red or the right shade of blue because of the logo and blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, you know what? Don't remember.
Oh my God.
That happened.
But you got it done though.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Got the
Might be a
job.
body count, but it got done.
So to answer your earlier question, she's 4910D, 2110I, 9984S, 7753C.
And you, Joey?
I am 1135D. I am, give me a second, because I remember them all. I just can't tell you right now, because I live it. I live it. That's what it is.
That's what you do.
I am 1135D, 8139I, 9953S, 7760C.
Okay. So here's my question based on your numbers. You're both extremely high when it comes to your S. Who makes the decision when it's time to eat? If you're going to get food and you say, hey,
That is like,
There's the funny.
so that's one of the things that stresses me out, is because nobody will make a decision except for, so myself and Joe are vegetarian. Carly is not, the littlest is vegetarian. So Carly will make decisions all day long. Oh, I want to eat this, but can't nobody else eat the food? So I'm sitting over here and Joey had gone through, okay, this week I want to eat this type of food or healthy or something. So I'm looking for guidance because I'm making the meal, but he don't ever know what he wants.
Okay.
But then when we're going out, I'm so used to whatever y'all want, just pick a darn place, let's go eat. And so it ends up being an area of frustration for us. It does.
So let me give you this side of why it's a frustration. So as I see that she has been stressed all week, I'm trying to say, what do you have a taste for? Because I'm trying to defer to you, like you have been, if there's any cooking that's been going on, like heavily, you've been doing it. I'm trying to take some pressure off of her. Apparently, taking pressure off adds stress. But no, I'm playing. Well, I'm not playing, but it's funny because we even had this conversation today. It's like, okay, so where are we going to eat? Well, where do you want to eat? Well, I could eat anything, but where do you want to eat? Because I feel like if I say, you know what, Ruth's Chris, well, I mean, I don't know about the money.
He is much more particular than I am. So my other thing is I'm normally good with most places we're going.
And I am too.
He's particular, and then he has times a day that he's trying to eat. So we got to get this in before 6 or 7 because he wants to, not sleep on a heavy belly, which I understand. But because I'm used to hearing those things, I'm normally on the, okay, what would you like to do? And so I come from that perspective. But this is an area in which when you have two S's that are married to each other, we're ready to kill each other because we're both trying to defer to each other. Like, I'm trying to give you what you need. You trying to give me what you need.
You know what?
And
I can step up on my D. If that'll help.
So
bring it up. Raise that D.
Chris.
It still doesn't work. I'm just telling you now.
It doesn't, right?
You tried this already?
Oh, Lovey is so frustrated because I'm like, okay, what do you want to eat? Well, what do you want to eat? And I'm like, I don't care. I'm kind of like you, Tina. There's only certain things that I won't eat, but we don't typically go to those type of places. And if you go somewhere where I'm like, I can eat almost anything. I won't eat beans because I don't like beans. I won't eat I eat pretty much, I'm pretty good. So, but the beans and cheese on hamburgers, I don't like cheeseburgers. So cheese on hamburgers, what am I saying? I don't like cheeseburgers. I don't like beans. So wherever we go, I can get something else besides that. Right. I mean, he gets bent. Can you just pick a place? I'm like, babe, I don't care.
Because they don't want me to. They don't want me to. Because I'm like Joey, because then it happens. I say they don't want me to because when they say, okay, because I'm like, look, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to like dampen my D a little bit and give some options. And they're like, well, we don't know. Okay,
Well,
we're
if we
fine.
say
We're going to
we
go
don't
here.
care,
This is where we're going to
then
go.
we're like, okay, we'll go there.
And then they're like, oh, I don't really want to go there. I don't like that. Really? That place again? And I'm like, hey, look, I'm like, then.
You know what? I saw this idea. You remember those old school, it was like almost like a clock, and you pull the lever and then it goes round and round and round, and like, okay, here's the
Yeah.
I saw an idea where a couple literally put all the different restaurants and you pull the levers, like wherever it lands, that's where y'all are going. So apparently this is a worldwide couple issue. It's not just dependent on your disc analysis, but I'm at the point where I'm about to do that. Because I think that would be good.
I'm going to steal another one of her questions. So because you're both high S's and you can't come to a conclusion, apparently, you guys should be losing a lot of weight because you can't figure out what you want to eat.
And yet.
So who said I love you first?
Me.
Really?
And he makes fun of it all the time. But yes, it was me.
You make fun of it? Please?
I don't make fun of it.
It was the way
I
it
don't make
happened.
fun.
I didn't want to say it because, you know, nobody wants to be the first to say it and seem all vulnerable and stuff.
Right.
But like I felt it. I felt it in the moment. I was like, all right, I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it and I love you. And that's how it came out. So he makes fun of the way it came out. But it was me.
Was funny the way it came out.
That's funny.
It was me.
So, so some fun questions, some interesting things. If you were to each choose an animal to represent you, like your spirit animal.
I felt it coming in my soul. Like that's where we were going.
Like I was connected already with extreme execution.
So what would you claim as each of your, I want to know what you would claim as your own spirit animal, but if somebody was to look at you as a couple and say, oh, that marriage has a spirit animal, what would the marriage be? So you individually, and then what would that spirit animal be for your specific marriage?
Very good question.
Right.
I've always been told, and maybe because I do this more in a professional setting, I'm usually like a lion or some type of, somebody said I was a chihuahua because I'm the smallest one with the biggest bite. So those are things that people have used to describe me. Whereas Joey's, social, everybody loves Joey, he's nice.
Not true.
So I've never really thought of it as an animal before.
And here's the other thing. So I don't really know, but that's a good question. But I see us as, it seems like we're easygoing. We're not really trying to get into any controversy. We're not trying. But when it comes down to root principles, we are beasts. And if there is, I say that because of the decisions we made for the foundation of our marriage, the health of our marriage. And it had to be set in stone because we were going to have to deal with my ex and our parents. Again, this is an episode unto itself. We needed to create healthy boundaries. And our families just, either they don't have boundaries or they haven't had them, so they felt like they could pretty much just run us. And those boundaries had to be set, and we became beasts through that counseling of, nope, we are going to have a healing situation. So we're easygoing until you trip that part of our lives. And it's like, no, we're not having that. You're not going to manipulate us. It will wear us out until at some point we realize how to establish that boundary, and then we hold to it, and people have to respect it. So I need to find an animal that, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not really Badger, because Badger's kind of a bad A on the surface, but we're good. This is how we love on you, but you will not cross that boundary, because in fact, if I had not gone through the counseling I did, we wouldn't be together, because I don't think that would have been a dysfunctional relationship. We had to go through this process of counseling so that we can be the best we can be for each other. And then for Carly, because my ex was just she was gonna manipulate until I draw a line with her. So that was a whole thing. Like, when are you going to draw the line, with your ex? That was one of the funniest but most serious conversations we had in counseling. And the therapist triggered it. Like, I need to push this button. And she didn't respect me until she was just like, I think you're scared. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And I lost it. I saw
And
this
he
side
put
of
me
me.
in my place, and I was mad. And the therapist left the room and said, y'all need to go ahead and pray together. And I was pissed, and I cussed him out. And then an hour later, I said to myself, that's the man I need to marry. Because I needed to see that when I need you to be a beast, and when I need you to be 100% D and step up to the plate, I need to know you can do that. And that's where I realized, I mean, it's hilarious because it was our first, like, if you were physically, it was on FaceTime. If you were physically there, I probably would have wanted to swing at him.
She wanted.
I wouldn't.
She wanted to.
But to see that, to know that, hey, you're gonna lay down the law when it needs to happen, that was kind of the nail in the coffin.
Why are you all laughing?
Well,
You all have some secret thing going on with each other. What's that about?
okay, I know what she's gonna say, but before she goes there, I have to say that
I know what I'm gonna say.
a couple of things come to mind, because you're gonna talk about. I already know what you're gonna say, and she's gonna say it. But before she goes there, I just want to say that your animal. When I look at your marriage and basically what you guys are telling me about what you need, you're loving and all that until somebody pushes, and then I keep coming up with koala because.
Come on, man. I need something with some fear.
No. Look up.
Whoever says, "Oh man, I went to the hospital with koala scratches."
That's because y'all don't know about koalas. Koala bears are cute and cuddly. That's what everybody talks about, how they're portrayed. But if you ever look at it, koala bear has these claws that are vicious. And if their babies or their family structure is threatened, even though they're vegetarians, koalas are vegetarians.
Vegetarians.
Excuse me, let me go get my koala teddy bear and check the claws.
And them things are vicious. They will put you in a hospital pretty quick. Anyway, look it up. That's all I'm saying.
I will look it up. She is clowning you, and that's what's making this funny. I thought you were gonna say something like a wolf,
Yeah.
like a wolf, like a beast, like a bison. He said, really, you are a butterfly. Butterflies attack. What? No, really, 9 out of 10 people die from butterfly injuries.
Yeah, they spit venom and everything. You just gotta.
Yes.
That's aggravating.
The other thing is, a song came to mind when you guys were talking, and it was you guys know Toby Nwigwe. Toby's he's under the ETA brand, or he's always talking, but he has a song. He's everywhere. He's like one of the fastest growing rap artists, but he's clean. Everything he does is clean. So CJ and signed him to his label. CJ is his manager, all that. He has a song that's been going around called "Try Jesus," and all I gotta say is look it up, because the lyrics basically are, it's about a minute. It's more like a prelude to the next song. Okay. But the lyrics are basically, try Jesus, don't try me, because I will lay hands.
Wow.
I can get down with that one.
Okay.
Oh, look it up. Yeah, look it up. Toby Nwigwe, try Jesus. It's hot. I played it for my daughter today, my 17-year-old daughter. I was like, every time I hear this song, I think of you. Because she's always like, don't mess with me, because I'll fight you. I'll fight you. I'm like,
She's not fighting her life either.
but go ahead and tell them why we were laughing.
Oh, so similar situation. It's just different people. So Lovey and I don't even know if you guys, our story. Lovey, before we got married, right after we were engaged, he was stabbed in the heart by my ex-boyfriend. And 2 open heart surgeries later, you know, obviously he's still here, but that left a lot of, how do I say this?
There's a lot of tension between families.
Not between families.
My mother went from, this is the girl I want you to meet, to this almost got you killed.
Basically. So,
Wow.
Lovey, being just the man that he is, of course, not wanting to, I say step on toes or whatever. There was a lot of residual hate. Maybe it wasn't hate. I felt that it was, but there was a lot of, we had a lot of issues with his mother and the involvement that she was in our lives, in our marriage, and opinions, and just always, you know, being there. Just, it was the first 4 years of our marriage were really bad as far as us being a couple, being able to be a couple together. And I felt like, have you ever, you know, you have what they say, you're in the room, but you feel like you're alone. That's how I kind of felt in our marriage initially. It's like, I felt like we were married, but I was an outsider in my own home. And the other part of that too is our oldest son is, he's not my biological son. Lovey and I got married when he turned 2, and he's always had custody of him. So basically I raised him as mom, but I always felt like that was something that was never forgotten, as far as like, yeah, you're his mom, but kind of like that. So I didn't have to deal with a baby mama. I had to deal with the baby grandmama, and that was the bear within itself. So when you were talking about him stepping up and having to, and you knew that he could and that he would, I didn't have that initially in our marriage. That's why early on in the podcast, in the interview, when I talked about, I tried to leave him, you know, at year 4, we were at, where were we?
We're at Morton's.
Oh, we were at Morton's.
On our
4-year anniversary. And we're supposed to be having a good time. And I'm sitting there, and kind of like how you talked about, Joy, with, you said you felt your ex-wife, she was kind of leaving the marriage before the actual breakup. I was like, wow, that resonated with me, because I felt that way. I felt like I was leaving the marriage before that. I actually told him, we're at dinner, and he's eating, and I'm just like, I just can't do this anymore. And I said, I want a divorce. And he was like, what? You know, and I always think back on it, I'm like, that was probably tacky on my part, you know. We're at dinner on our anniversary. We're supposed to be having a good time.
We weren't at Jack in the Box. We're at Morton's.
Like, how do you finish that dinner? I was like, I want a divorce, but here's the spinach, or here's the potatoes, and, you know, so how do we move from that at this spot? You know, it was very uncomfortable, but it opened up. We went to counseling together, and I did some by myself, and it was after that it was like, it was a rediscovery, you know, of sorts, basically. Lovey was able to, after that part, you know, once we were really faced with breaking up, that was when he was like, oh, no, this is my wife. This is, you know, I felt him stepping up, you know, like the part where you didn't respect him, or he felt like you didn't respect him. I kind of had those same feelings. That's why we're just, you know, we sit here and we smile. We're like, oh, ain't love grand, you know, because we worked it out. So yeah, we really
That's what it was all about. It's that maturity piece we were talking about. I think a lot of times when it comes to couples, we forget that evolution. People want to argue about evolution, and there's an evolution of self. There's an evolution within relationships, and I think we forget about that marriages and relationships have to evolve. And there's many. It's a multi-layered situation. Who you two are right now, who we are right now, will be very different from who we are 10, 15, 20 years from now. You know, 15-year-old Carly and 2-year-old, what was
she's 19.
Aria.
Maria? Aria.
Like a song, Aria.
Yeah, and Aria is, you know.
Is she 19, or she's 19, right, Carly?
15.
Oh, 15. I think you said
Mhm.
19.
And Aria is two. Really?
I got the listening skills. I'm just saying.
She got the writing skills apparently, because you're still asking her questions.
But you evolve, and so at some point you're going to be different to them as they go, as their needs change as well. And I want to commend both of you, because you two are evolving, and there's a high level of astuteness. And I have to ask, Tina, what do you do professionally? Because you keep referring back to your job.
Oh, I'm a project manager for a financial company.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
So
so
I kind of have to be, by default, by title, I have to be more of that D personality on a day-to-day basis.
That's true.
so behind the scenes, you're managing Joey, and he doesn't even know he's getting managed.
He
Oh,
knows.
I know. I'm
He
getting
knows.
paid.
He knows. There's no question about that.
We're not under delusion there.
So I know we've commended a lot of your time. We've been on this about an hour and 20, but I want to ask you, so as a couple together, as you've been going through your things, evolving, what advice would you two give to a new couples? A young couple approaches you, says, I like the energy I see in you. Do you have any advice for us? We're going to be getting married in the next 6 months to a year. What would you tell them?
Well, I can start. And I think this depends. Obviously, we had a slightly different situation. We had a blended family, so there was very evident things that we would have to work through, or obstacles to overcome. And
Let's tweak it. There's a lot of blended families that are out there in the world.
well, I mean, we can do
What would
both.
you say
But
to
I
a
think across the board, the message would be the same, right? We all come to the table with our own personalities, with our own experiences, with our own story, our own need for healing, even if you're in that process. So really taking the time to understand those things about yourself so that you can come to the table in a marriage as neutral as possible. Because if you're still working off of the deficit or the issues that you've had without at least acknowledging it and knowing what you're trying to accomplish, you're not gonna be able to get past that. So for me, it was working through that stuff, which we did in counseling. We did that individually. We did that together. That was probably one of the biggest things that made the difference. And I always laugh because, I had thought about counseling, and he almost put it as an ultimatum when we were dating. And so I started with him.
Ultimatum.
We joke about it. It was really like he wanted to know that I'd be open to that, right? But it really made all the difference. It was one of the tools that helped me unpack everything I had been through, my previous relationships, my childhood traumas, anything else that most people will have. And it helped me understand where I am, what I need to work on individually so that I'm okay as a whole person, and then what I can give in this relationship. Now, to add in the blended family too, the biggest thing that it helped us understand is we unpacked a lot of, obviously the issues, what was the trauma he went through, what are the expectations, what are we looking for, what are we trying to accomplish, what is our game plan? And so we started that process, and with Carly, it made a huge difference. By the time we were married, on our wedding day, it so happened somehow she ended up staying with me that night because Joey, he had some technical issues with the music, and she ended up staying with me, and we woke up and we got married on Mother's Day, and she looked at me, scared the crap out of me, but she looked at me and said, okay, from today on, you're marrying Daddy. This is Mother's Day. I'm gonna call you Mom. And she right then and there sealed the deal. And I was like, whoop, you sure you want to do that? That's a big commitment. But because we had talked about it, because we had gone through what we want our family to look like, we were able to, as far as possible, guide that situation and bring to the table what we want to do and work towards it. Now, did it always come together like that? Absolutely not. You're still dealing with the child who's dealing with the grief, the trauma that she's been through, as a product of divorce, working through all that. But being a blended family, having that preliminary interaction, working with her, explaining to her what we're trying to do, explaining, hey, you're never going to be left out of this, made all the difference. So to me, that would be my advice is really analyze this stuff. Don't rush into it. Figure yourself out, figure what you want to accomplish together, what's on the table, what's off the table, and move forward from there.
Nice.
So in volume 2, whenever that will happen, make sure you ask about the prophecy. Okay? Just remember that.
Write it down.
Oh, that just because of that, there's going to be a volume 2.
I tried to tell you that I know you go around to different couples. I understand that. But you have only tapped the surface. There are so many principles to be able to share. It's up to you if you want to access that. But
Like
we do.
Here's the interesting place where I am about it. You are absolutely right. First of all, there's such a large contingency of blended families happening that it's actually quite normal now. It's not outside of normal. And I feel a special burden because of what I've gone through. But I've also understood people have to be open to wanting to hear it. And most people are not open. Most people have already set the wedding date and they're trying to align everything to the wedding date. When there's a lot of work to be done just for you by yourself. Now, you're not going to get all that work done before you actually get married, because the marriage itself is going to be a job that's for the rest of your life, that you're going to be learning on the job for the rest of your life. So I don't expect you to know everything before we get married, but there has to be, like she said, a level of awareness of what you're about to get into and how you need to have an attitude of learning. That I wish that I could articulate to people, because most times they don't even realize that they're laden with all the baggage they are, because they don't see it as baggage. They see it as that's the other person's fault. So I've left that behind. But you're carrying it on your back, and you're going to carry it into this relationship. I value so much the therapist we had was a divine godsend, because he knew how to ask the right questions. He didn't come in with answers. He knew how to ask the questions that caused you to have to answer it and caused you to have to think. And that's one of the people who we will go to blows for. You mess with our therapists, we will kill you. Because that's how endeared we are to him for being at the right time, at the right place. And I'm not sure that people want to go through that process of being open to, you know what, I'm thinking about this, but I want you to talk to me about this for a second. Help me to walk through this. Most people are closed-minded unless you're coming on board to co-sign the plans they already have. Then there's this level of readiness that they're not at. And I don't know how to really manage it, but what I've done is I'm not going to say anything unless I see an openness that you're asked, you want to know. Because if that's not there, anything I say is talking myself blue in the face. It's going right over your head. So in most situations, I realize we're not actually going to talk until a good 2 years, 3 years into your marriage, when you've just about hit rock bottom. Then I will know you're open to whatever I have to say. Now it's about whether you have the pride to actually say something about it or not. But the other thing is, I also realize I don't know everything and I don't know everybody, and it may not turn out like what I think. So I look for that window of openness. Do they need it? Are they going to say anything about it? Is there any kind of thing that they say that leads into it? If I see that, I'll go and I'll start sharing. And I realize I can't share everything I have. That's going to be too much for you. Even if it's all great information, you can only handle so much. But I'm learning as an older person what all these older people have known all this time. They've learned how to say, volumes of information, just a couple of things. You sure that's the one? Are you okay? Have you thought this through? Now, those seem like real simple questions, but if you think about it, it's like, I don't know if that's the one. Maybe I should think about this. I don't know if I thought it through. What do you mean? They have been through the process. They have tried to tell everybody and share with everybody what they didn't learn. But even if I have that kind of passion, it just goes over people's heads if they're not ready for it. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. It comes down to, like, we tell our kids, particularly our two older ones, a 25-year-old and a 20-year-old, soon to be 21. And
yeah.
And we always say, everybody wants to be grown until it's time to do grown folk stuff.
Yep.
You'll
hear that again. I had a dream about this statement. They all want to be grown.
Till it's time, like E.T. always says, everybody wants to be a beast till it's time to do beast stuff. People don't want to put in the work. They don't realize. We just had our most recent podcast, episode 106, was talking about, we had a debate about living happily ever after. And, I talk about it really being working happily ever after. People think you're supposed to live and there's going to be Cinderella, you're going to talk to the birds and the chipmunks and all that, but it's work. It's more like the dwarves where you're whistling while you work, because it's working happily ever after. It's a process that never ends, it seems.
Now, real quick, how would you all answer that? What would you tell people who are...
Go talk to Joey and Tina? No, it's never had to turn back on us. I see, CRAZY stands for, it's an acronym. And CRAZY stands, so the word crazy is compassionate, real, accountable, zealous, and yielding.
That's awesome. Y'all thought this through.
Actually, crazy came first, and then we figured out the acronym later.
No, that's incredible. I love that. Man, babe, what's our acronym?
Ooh, that's a good
Koala. Eric? No, wait, that's C.
You're not gonna let me live that down, are you?
No. Honestly, I'm gonna look into the research of the koala, and I'm gonna. Actually, I know what you're saying is true. They are pretty.
Part two comes out. Yeah. If you don't like it, then we'll switch it over to the wolf. But one thing, we've talked about this before, and I don't know if she's going to say the same thing, but it's about, for us, it always comes back to complete submission to each other and to your relationship. It's not about, I know, we can talk Ephesians, we can talk Proverbs. Everybody likes to go there, and we do too, but our relationship didn't become complete, or at least become more mature, until I was willing to submit all of my preconceived notions of what it was supposed to be a man, to be a husband, to be a father. I had to submit all of that to the needs of my wife and my family. When I was willing to give up what I thought I was supposed to be in order to become what I should be and what God intended me to be, to submit to that, to God's will and purpose, that's when our relationship really took off. And I think so it's about being open to submission and not to get caught up in what you think submission truly means.
For me, I always go back to not settling. I think so many times in relationships, we settle just so that we're not alone, or, we know it. I feel like, we talk about that instinct. We kind of know when something's just not right, but maybe I could change him, or maybe I could change her, or maybe, it'll get better, or, well, what proof have you ever seen that it would get better? Because I'm assuming that you've been together for hopefully some time, and you've seen each other in different situations. And if the shoe is blue, it's always going to be blue. You know what I'm saying? So don't ever settle just to say that I got someone. I'm very, I want people to be very specific when they're talking about a spouse or a mate. What is it that you want? What is it that you're looking for? Like you said earlier about expectations. What are you expecting? And if they don't measure up or they don't meet those checkpoints, then you might need to just rethink this whole thing, because we too many times, oh no, I like that statement you said. You set the wedding date and you try to line everything up to that wedding date. I'm going to use that. I just want you to know. I think I might coin it.
Use that. You ask permission as an S from the S community to use that.
That's so many
stuff.
You see that in so many relationships, well, I just thought that, or I could know what you're talking about. Say what you mean what you say. Don't settle for just having someone just so you can come home and not be alone. You can be alone in a relationship and with a whole bunch of people, so
That's
I always never settle.
I think the last thing I would add to this is that.
Well, first I do want to ask a question. So does Carly live with you all?
Did that.
Yeah.
Like how she did it. She took her straw.
She's with us most of the time. There is joint.
That's a good question.
There is joint custody. So
Okay.
We're supposed to have shared custody, but because of the situation between myself and her mother, I've tried to have her as much of the time as possible because of what I felt like I needed to pour into her.
Right. Got it.
So it seemed very unbalanced. That is an episode just by itself. Just put it down.
He's on like episode 6.
I'm on episode 6 right now.
Every time it's like, that's an episode.
No, seriously, that's.
Yeah, this is going to be Married into Crazy with Slips and Lovey and Joey.
Kibbles.
Right?
The koalas.
The Kibble koalas.
That's going to be the logo.
Koala. There you go.
That's so funny.
Well, you know what? I was going to say the other thing I would tack onto that, as far as advice, is one thing that we're very serious about. We alluded to it earlier. Just that, Proverbs 27:17. We always talk about iron sharpens iron. Couples should sharpen each other. We have a thing we call the iron tribe. And the iron tribe is, as we sharpen each other, couples, right? To be more like iron sharpening iron, you need an iron tribe. Be very, very, what's the word I want to use? Intentional about who you surround yourself with.
Right, absolutely.
You need to have an iron tribe of individuals that are there for your marriage.
Good stuff.
There's so many marriages where, the ladies are over here and the men are over there, and all the ladies are doing is bashing the men, and all the men are doing is bashing the women. And, we want to make sure that we're around couples that love each other. I actually like my husband. Like, I want to spend time with them. Not too much time, but,
Just not when you just got off of work.
Right.
Just not that time.
You don't see that enough, where there are couples, they're still in love after years, and they're best friends, and they're talking, and they're enjoying each other. So many couples, I'm on the couch, he's on the couch, and we all staring at the TV. We have nothing to say to each other. And through the years, the distance has just gone more and more and more. So that's what iron sharpening iron, or couples sharpening each other. That's kind of what that's about too. I'm feeling in a funk. All right, let me get with somebody who's XYZ or whatever. And I know that they're in a different phase, or they could talk to me about whatever it is, marriage stuff. I don't feel so alone. So
yeah. Episode 7, we just gone through this recently, this stage of, we were trying to construct our tribe, and it was a tribe of other blended families, and it's like suddenly one just went down, like real close to us. It just like in open flames, and everybody suffers when that happens. I mean, we're still trying to recover from that situation, because that's the kind of community we're trying to build. But one of them was not being transparent, was not being forthright. And when it happened, and the crash that happened, and the kids and everything it did to, now we have to kind of help cover the kids that were friends to our kids. And it's just like, traumas keep happening like that. And you got to keep walking forward. We always said we wanted our house to be a house where all the kids could come in and they could feel comfortable and all that kind of stuff. And the prayer is being answered right now. But we didn't ever think what problems those kids were going to have. Now they all have the same problems that our daughter has, which is marriages are crashing all around us. And they're angry about it. And now we have to bring those angry kids into our home. And they're hard to deal with. It's like, that's not easy to deal with. Or loving them when they're in that, that teenage brain, we never dreamt that the answer to that prayer would look like this. Right. But yet here we find ourselves, and it's like, wow, I guess he answered that prayer, didn't he? But man, it sure doesn't look the way, you know what I'm saying? And they do find a haven in our home, but the stuff that we have to do to keep that a haven and what we have to go through emotionally is just like, wow, man, we weren't expecting this. You know what I'm saying? Episode 7.
Yeah, there will definitely this will be a 2-parter, if not a 4 or 5. So we're gonna, as we bring this to a close, one thing that I just have to share this with Tina. I am really impressed with, I had an immediate affinity for Joey in our first conversation. And I didn't know, I just liked him. The vibe was good. No, I mean, just the vibe was good.
Nothing like koalas. I mean, they're...
Right? Oh my, what's not like, but koalas are lovable, right? But you know, where my affinity grew for Joey when several months after we had known each other, via Extreme Execution, he was being interviewed by Fatai, and it came out, part of the discussion was him being part of Take 6. And I'm sitting here going, wait, what? And I love that about you, Joey, because I didn't know. At no point in our previous conversations when we were talking did he come out with, when I was in my travels and I was doing XYZ and I was singing and performing for this individual, or, Grammy number, 6, or, it was none of that. And I sat here and I not that I wasn't impressed by those things, because I don't really give a rip, but it's more about the fact that wasn't it's something he did. It's not who he is. And I find that to be extremely impressive in the character of a man, of any individual, to recognize that there's a difference between what I do for a living and who I am. Wow. So I really want to commend you for that, Joey.
Thank you. And I wish we lived closer. I wish we lived within, because that Iron Tribe is actually something that is, everybody needs that, man. And especially now, COVID is just, it has proven marriages. It's either proving them or it is breaking them down to what they are. And everybody needs that tribe that you all are. And I'm glad that you've been given that gift. It makes me feel great. First of all, even greater about her, because she is a beast, an asset. And I told her this. I'm like, anybody who can get you on their team, they have to see you as an asset, because she is always going to add. And I know that you're like that as well.
Oh, thanks,
anytime. And I know that you're that as well to him, to Ernie, and I wish that I want to establish and form and be a part of that kind of community that you all have already been led to establish. The work you're doing is outstanding. And I just want to commend you all on what you're doing. This is my first time meeting you. He's talked about you, but meeting you is like meeting a movie star that he's always spoken about. I thank you all for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the show. We truly appreciate it. And you are. We consider you now. Every one of our speakers that come on, and you're part of our Iron Tribe now. And so we actually have a private Facebook group where you're going to get an invite. And it's small, but it's one of those things where it's not super active, but we post in there occasionally. And the idea is that we want to invite people to come in that have been prior speakers. And as we introduce other individuals to get some third-party exposure to other people. So if questions are being asked, that we have other like-minded couples that are part of the Iron Tribe that are going to really help them really live in the covenant of their marriage.
Good. That's awesome.
So that's the goal.
Great vision.
I just want to ask a question. So Tina, does he sing for you when he's in trouble?
You know what's really funny? It always sounds like this. You always kind of romanticize it. Oh, man, he can sing for me in this. And then the first time he did it, it was during a Take 6 concert, and they were singing Happy Birthday to me. I just sat there. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? This is so awkward. Like, it was beautiful, but I was just like, I'm not the type, I was miserable at my bridal showers. It's just like, because everybody's looking at you and you feel like, well, what am I supposed to do? So the long and short answer is no. And part of it, and that's another thing we have to get used to, because I like going to concerts. I like all the music stuff. And he's like, I'm at home. I don't want to think about none of that, So it's finding that difference. But on big occasions he sang for our wedding. He's done other things like that.
And I couldn't look at her. The entire time she's coming down, I'm playing on guitar, I'm singing, and it's all I can do to just finish the darn song.
He literally had his eyes closed the whole time. He did not see until it got to there.
She does most of the singing around the house.
And
is what's really interesting. But it's like she does, and now Aria does, and it's like you would expect me to be doing that, but that has been my job, So the song she comes up with, I'm gonna run some recordings on that next time.
Please don't.
On the aisle, and you said you were playing the guitar and singing. Is it because you were emotional? Is that why?
Yes, but you have to understand what it meant to come from thinking that you are a failure for life and you don't deserve to have something better. You don't deserve for this to be done right. You don't deserve right relationship. To seeing the healing process and going through the stripping process of being healed and unloading this dead body off your back, to coming to her and saying, do you buy, because and I told her this, what she didn't know was the one thing that I had to have that was a straw breaker. I don't expect her to have everything together. I don't expect her to know everything, but she's got to be open to healing, whatever that means. And I covenanted I wasn't going to say anything. I'm just going to let her prove it. So when she trusted me to start counseling, I knew when she said, okay, I knew it was one of the evidences that she was who I was supposed to be with, because I had to have that. And so when you go through all of that, and you go through the prophecy, and you go through, and she's finally here, and then so at the time it was John Legend, All of Me for All of You. And I'm just like, she was like, oh, I'd really like to have this sung for my wedding. Now, she swears that she wasn't telling me, giving a suggestion to actually sing it. But I heard that and I was like, dang it, I got to learn this song. I got to sing this song. I got to play this song. And it's just, I'm just going to put myself completely out there. But that's what she said. That's what she asked for. So I learned the song 3 weeks before or something like that. And upon singing it, I'm just trying to keep myself together, because I see how good God has been to lead me to this point. There's no way I can't look at her. I can't make it through the song, but I can't look at her. If I'm going to finish this song, I just have to finish the song. Then I can look at her. Then we could go. But I can't do both. I'm sorry. So it was the most vulnerable moment for me. But I finished. And when I looked up, she just like clowning me like,
Hey,
You didn't even say. You
I'm
didn't even see me
here.
come in.
boo.
Let's see if that's
No,
not
you
Koala,
guys,
I don't know what is.
right? What if it wasn't me?
Right.
You just done all
I'm in the
this
wrong
work.
building singing my song.
Well, cool. Okay, well, hey, we want to thank you for your time. And this is what we're going to do right now. Every podcast, we end it the same way by using what we call it's a couple's I can.
I can.
And well, it's a long story behind it. And what it is, it's got 40 different affirmations for couples, very simple affirmations that start with I can. So we always pull two, one for each spouse. And
Up with all these ideas. It's
So-
you, isn't it?
Yep.
It's her. Yeah, she comes up with it. And who takes the credit for all of them? It's you, isn't it, Ernie?
Good idea. I will take the credit, but
No, I'm playing with you.
all right, so Joey, you're going to be your focus for the next week. And for all the husbands out there listening, I can give my partner more attention. Exactly what Tina's been asking for during this COVID season.
That is like-
I can give her more attention.
When she wants it.
okay,
You
so
want my attention right now.
mine says, you ready for this?
Okay.
I can give my undivided attention to my partner. So while you're giving him attention, you're giving him undivided attention. Isn't that funny?
That's funny. We pulled it at the same time.
Wow. Are you serious?
That sounds like date night to me.
I know, right? I can give my undivided attention to my partner. It doesn't say for how long. It could be only 5 minutes. So,
We
So
can
mine
do
was I can give my attention to her when she wants it.
It's basically, it says, I can give my partner more attention.
More attention.
yeah.
that.
Only when she wants it, though.
Undivided attention.
Yeah, so no Carly, no
Yes.
Aria,
No Candy Crush.
No, nothing.
nada.
Nada.
That's good stuff.
All right, well, hey, we want to thank you for participating. Yeah, stay on the line afterwards, but for participating in the #1 podcast for all the couples that married into crazy.
That's right.